This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live, and it's the last live show of this week as we move into, well, let's look at it, depending on who you are. Another week of massive reform of America, the Super Bowl, or who knows what else the frivolous, stupid, crazy media is actually covering. I see there are articles about are the Academy Awards woke or not? This is not in any way an exact. This is just the truth right from the bottom of my heart. I couldn't care less. I don't think I have seen a really great movie since before the pandemic. Now, maybe you'll find one for me that I thought was great. And it probably is one that was like that whole series on television, The Chosen, is ingenious, brilliant. Almost impossible to do a series on the life of Jesus Christ, and almost impossible for that great actor to do is to play him. And someday we're going to get to interview him because it's transformed his whole life. We are very shortly, as we arrange this, we're going to have a panel discussion, which is going to become part of our Friday show. But we're going to have one near the beginning, one near the end. The one at the beginning is going to be so we can get out a bunch of topics really quickly on what's going to happen. You know, there's a lot of news. We try to focus on the news that you don't get otherwise, or sometimes more described as you don't get the complete, all the parts of it. And the key parts are left out. And we do it very specifically because our country is still suffering from the Biden regime, communist censorship that was imposed on us by them from the moment, really from the moment they got to close down the hard drive and fix the 2020 election. And I am attributing right now, although I have no hesitation to attribute it to their cheating at the ballot boxes. I'm not like the cowards who are afraid to say that. Never have been, never once, gave up a job over it, probably got sued over it, and they probably tried to put me in prison over it. But I'm sorry, they cheated in the 2020 election. But in any event, before they cheated at the ballot box, they cheated with the hard drive. There's all this information that proves that Joe Biden is an operative of Red China, operative of Russia. There might be 40 different reasons why Joe Biden not only should be president of the United States, but should be prosecuted for racketeering, bribery, income tax evasion, perjury, and more consideration would have to be given, but certainly a very serious investigation of treason, selling out to the United States, giving up the Bagram Air Base, never doing anything about the COVID invasion, allowing the Chinese to come in here unvetted when you know that China spies, doing away with the major spy apparatus, law enforcement that we had, with very little comment by our equally traitorous media. So President Trump took away his security clearance today. Was there any objection to it, Ted? Did anybody actually have, may I use the word, let me say cojones. It's better to say that than the English word. Did anyone have the cojones to object to it?
So this just
because
in
it's so
tonight,
ridiculous. It is so obvious that he shouldn't have a security clearance. The man, if there was anybody in the United States, right, that had a security clearance, and you found out that over the last 10 years, and let's accept his lie, I never got any of it, as the truth. But this is true. Here's a guy, he wants a security clearance. The last 15 years, he's gotten $31 million from Red China. Would you give him a security clearance? No.
of course not.
So who complained?
This is this just announced Within the last hour, the president says there is no need for Joe Biden to continue receiving access to classified information. Therefore, we are immediately revoking Joe Biden's security clearances and stopping his daily intelligence briefings.
I hope he gave no reason. There are so many reasons you don't have to give a reason.
He said that Biden's the one that set the precedent back in 2021 when he instructed the intelligence community to stop the 45th president from accessing details on national security, which is a courtesy provided to previous presidents.
You see, I would not. Well, that's the easiest way out, Mr. President, and they can't really object to that one. But there are so many others, aren't there? First of all, he was let off the hook for being prosecuted for crimes because he's non-compos mentis. So we're going to give a security briefing to a nut job? That doesn't make sense, right? Number two, his family has received disgraceful amounts of money from our biggest enemy. So why take the risk? Number three, you can easily say he received that money because, unfortunately, the guy that did it for us in the Congress was a complete incompetent and couldn't even read the hard drive, which gives dispositive evidence that money went to Joe Biden. Oh, the most important one being an admission by Hunter that he gave half his money to his father. That is not, you cannot, in the context of doing a security analysis, you can't avoid that. And in the context of trying a case, you can't stop its admission into evidence. Even if you want to say, and I don't know why people fall for this, oh, he's lying. Well, then anybody who made an allegation of a crime could be, anyone who makes an allegation of a crime could be lying. Then there'd be no evidence. Evidence is not proof that you committed a crime. Evidence is a statement, a document, a piece of a gun that tends to make it more likely that you committed the crime than if you didn't, which is impeachable, meaning your side can show that it isn't. Well, this is about the strongest piece of evidence that you have. It has a special provision for it in the rules of evidence called an admission. We've gone over this over and over again. So, I mean, he actually shouldn't have had a security clearance as a president because he was a danger to the United States. He also did things that should have resulted in his immediate revocation, like when he gave Bagram away. It should have resulted in the immediate pulling of his security clearance and almost a summary impeachment for treason. But thank you, President Trump, for being a gutsy president. We love you. We covered on the last show a number of subjects that were really important. We'll go back to a few of them, but the one I want to start with now as we get ready for our panel discussions are two I want to make sure are not overlooked. The Democrats have declared war on President Trump administration. They have said that that we should fight them, that they should fight us. They said that they should fight in the streets. Now, if there ever was an invitation to a riot, isn't that an invitation to a riot? They did not say it in some kind of, panel discussion at the Kennedy Library. This wasn't let's say an analysis of we're having a panel discussion and I say, what are the likelihoods of a riot? And someone says, well, it's very likely that there will be. Well, they're obviously not encouraging a riot. They're giving you these people were not doing that. They were directly encouraging a riot. Some of them have a history where they should have been prosecuted and put in prison for doing it, like Schumer, when he went way beyond any of the legal restrictions to basically invite an attack on Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch and on Kavanaugh. And the one on Kavanaugh came to fruition. Ignored. by the two-tiered system of justice we have, you should know that the present U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia has written him a letter to explain it. Failure to answer that letter, I have a feeling, leads to something that I got 500 of from them called a subpoena. Failure to respond to the subpoena results in, I don't know, putting leg irons on you. Like, I want to see if they put leg irons on Big Mouth. Maybe better, actually, in his case, how about we just stuff his face so he can't talk and make sure there's not a microphone around so he doesn't hurt people on his way to it. The guy is probably the biggest clown in Washington, and probably, I would say, on both sides of the aisle, the most disrespected man, because there is no one that doesn't realize that he has turned his back on his own people. The man is Jewish. The man was a great defender of Jewish causes and rights. And he has been a complete, cowardly, insipid idiot, hiding every time his party engages in over-the-top anti-Semitic remarks and actions. Maybe a slight little whimpering criticism or two, but never any attempt to rebut them. And then, worse than that, he committed a crime. He interfered in the Israeli election, telling people not to vote for Netanyahu. I ask you to think, had that been effective, we would not be talking about Iran being on the balls of its ass right now. None of that would have happened. Bibi would have listened to him, not taken a ceasefire almost before he invaded. And at every important point where Bibi, against the odds, destroyed them, he advised against it, including at one point the extraordinary act of interfering in their election, for which he should have been prosecuted. But no, the Justice Department at the time was a corrupt, crooked Justice Department. And they didn't. Well, they're not now. And I want to see what happens with this. But he sure is not being quiet. Do we have some video of the most annoying voice in Washington speaking on this? Schumer.
Yesterday.
Yeah, the schmuck.
Yeah. We'll pull that up here. This is Chuck Schumer from yesterday. Outside. Oh, this was actually from a few days ago. This is him outside USAID. You want him where he's?
I want
anything Chuck Schumer?
Anything on Chuck Schumer. You're going to look at it and you're going to say, "I hate that guy." This is what happened to him when he was a kid. They used to beat him up in a schoolyard. And Brooklyn's tough. If they don't like you, they beat you up. This is a sissy boy. I can tell from uncoordinated actions that he can't fight.
Every one of the 47 Democratic senators is going to vote against that horrible, dangerous man, Russell Vogt, on Wednesday. And we cannot.
By the way, Russell Vogt was approved
and a small
confirmed.
group of people to secretly, behind closed doors, take away our privacy, take away our dollars, take away everything we have. We are going to fight this fight. I am going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. 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 We will win.
Please. We just lost half our audience.
We will win.
Can we put that off? What are you doing? Torturing people? Now, tell me he doesn't look like a jerk. He doesn't know how to put his arms.
That's why I had to show that twice.
Imagine him going out for a pass. I'm telling you, the kid grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in Brooklyn. I didn't know him. He's suffering from having had his ass kicked in a number of times, just for being him. They didn't like schmucks. Wiener, same thing. Weiner had the same. Weiner was his. Do you have any idea the Weiner? He trained Weiner. We used to consider Weiner. The joke was because they were both. Weiner was in the city council when I was the mayor, and the head of the city council, who was a Democrat, used to say, "I'm not going to deal with him. You deal with him." Democrats hated him. They hated him when he got in trouble. Showing his. I mean, if you can't figure out Weiner's problem, you've never taken psychology 101. The kid was named Weiner. He was half Italian, half Jewish. He grew up Italian. He went to Catholic schools. He became Jewish when he wanted votes. I don't think he even knew anything about the Jewish religion. I don't think so. I have a feeling he didn't know. I think, like my friend who was Jewish but was never brought up Jewish, I took great delight in teaching him the Jewish religion. It was great fun. Denny Young and I had great fun doing that. Anytime I was invited to a synagogue or something, I drag them along with me and we stay behind. So that's the tabernacle. That's where they have the Torah. But then they have the rabbi. And one rabbi once wanted to do a bar mitzvah for me. He had never been bar mitzvah, and he was too embarrassed. But in any event, Weiner was just like him. Weiner, that's what he's contributed. You know how these people contribute. Great. Jefferson sort of contributed Madison, that kind of thing. Schumer's contributed Weiner. Well, there he is. I don't know. Is that harmless or isn't it? The next one I'm going to play for you, he really should go to jail for this. With the one with Judge Kavanaugh, because I'll tell you why. It led to somebody planning an assassination of Justice Kavanaugh. So I know we have this great debate about, does this incendiary language lead to assassinations, attempted assassinations, violence? Sometimes it's a big stretch. Sometimes there have even been lies about it. And I'm generally not big on it, on the connection. Maybe because here you go.
And you will pay the price. And they're taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. And they're taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Okay, stop there. I know this is a small point. But did you notice his reaction after he said that? He's like proud of himself that he was able to say it. He got this like shit-eating grin on his face, that he was proud of it. Now, a couple of things you should know. There's a specific statute that makes it a crime to pressure Supreme Court justices and protest against them and threaten them with regard to upcoming decisions. Number two, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be, I'm just a little unclear on this, I believe this speech was made before they made their decision, but after it was shockingly and illegally leaked by one of them, who the Supreme Court stupidly is protecting. This guy's career should be ruined, who did that, and anyone who worked with him, because it truly could have led to the murder of a Supreme Court justice. So they illegally leak the opinion suggesting that Roe against Wade can be overturned. Hasn't been made yet, meaning somebody could change their vote. So he's out there leading a charge, threatening them with violence if they don't change their vote. If that's not a crime, well, January 6th was an inaugural celebration, if that's not a crime. And every one of those 1,000 people should be given an extra $1 million in damages for the disparate treatment between them and a United States senator who went much further. And President Trump and I should both be given $10 million for having been put through what we were put through, for suggesting that we inspired violence when I said nothing about violence. Oh, I have an opinion of a justice that says that, and one appointed by Obama, that nothing that I said could be construed as provoking violence. Everything he said doesn't have to be construed to provoke violence. It was provoking violence. Trump said the opposite of violence. Go to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically. So where's our $10 million? That should be the damages. More than that. I don't know how much it cost me to defend that. And in case of Trump, you'd have to look at how much it cost him, and then how much it cost him in terms of his reputation, which, after all, is of tremendous, even of tremendous economic value. So maybe we should talk, the president and I, about suing the biggest schmuck in Washington. Boy, I tell you. So when we come back, we're going to have a panel discussion. And but before we do, I do want to say that the president's ceremony with the women athletes was so wonderful. It was so positive. But I don't want you to think the battle is over. Now, I believe the president of the American Olympic Committee has said, big step here, he agrees with Trump. In other words, now he's speaking for the American team. The American team is not going to have men pretending to be women competing in the women's events. But that doesn't answer the question. What's the UK team going to do? What's the Sweden team going to do? What's the Irish team going to do? What's the Italian team? What are they going to do? More importantly, what are the rules of the Olympic Committee, the overall Olympic Committee? And I don't even know what the rules of the American Olympic Committee are, because we only heard the word of, I think, the president. And my feeling is this has become a matter of great debate. The president has inserted something else that people haven't paid attention to. He's inserted an order that you're not getting a visa if you're coming in here to pretend to be a woman athlete. You won't be allowed in the United States. Now, number one, I don't know how many of them we can catch in advance, right? I mean, they're very, very, a lot of them don't make the decision until right before they come in and cheat. Some of them have a history of doing it. I guess those we could exclude right away. But I think the Olympic Committee, among other things, is going to have to take that on, right? I mean, they're going to have their people scrutinized in a way that we scrutinize terrorists. And then I would imagine we'll have you sign a declaration at the border. In fact, this is a Giuliani suggestion. They may have already thought of it, but after all, oh, never mind. I was going to say something selfish. But in any event, there should be a document. Number one, if we know that you're a biological male pretending to be a woman, and you are going to participate in the Olympics, the rule is you will be excluded and not allowed in. You won't be given a visa. Go back to Jerkland. Second, we should have you sign a document, all of them. I'm a male now, and between now and the end of the Olympics, I'm going to remain a male. And if I become a female, I subject myself to summary exclusion from the United States of America. Now, when we pose that to them, are they going to pull the Olympics from Los Angeles? You think we make money from them? You're crazy. You're crazy. Los Angeles right now is a destroyed city. Destroyed physically, destroyed morally, destroyed politically, destroyed in every way possible. It's a basket case. What are they going to do? They're going to have it there and show the ruins of. This would be like having the Olympics in Berlin after the Second World War. So it's not going to exactly show off the United States in the best possible way. Second, we have so many differences with them. I mean, this is like the enemy coming to have their event. And third, their carrying on the Olympic tradition is a monstrosity. It's a complete degradation of history. The concepts and the ideals of the Olympics was so far gone from the corrupt. You know the corruption this committee has been subjected to it's a completely corrupt body. Every Olympics has had its own level of corruption. I don't know how long that's been going on. Can you imagine the amount of bribery and the amount of stealing and the amount of cheating with athletes? And there's nothing uplifting about an Olympics like this. And now, where do they have the male fighter fighting the Italian boxer who pulled out? What was that? What game was that? Was that an Olympics boxing match or a world?
Yeah, let's.
It couldn't be. It was more. It was less than 4 years ago.
And that was that was boxing, right?
Yeah, and then of course,
was it the world boxing?
Yeah, Trump had that wonderful athlete there. He didn't. I don't think she spoke. Riley Gaines spoke, which is quite appropriate. I mean, there's nobody more entitled to speak, or nobody that gave more of herself. Although there are people that come pretty close, and I think Riley would be the first one to say they should get credit too. And the president did. He mentioned a lot of names, but they came so fast. It was hard. It was hard to really. It was hard to really like point them out for distinction. But the young woman who became paralyzed, I think she was a volleyball player, and a very good one, like one of the top volleyball players in the United States. The college she played against allowed males, wearing skirts. Never mind. It's a little bit like Trump's reaction. I could see it all during. I could see it all during the ceremony. 4 times he said, "I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I am signing a thing that says men should not participate in women's sport or go in their bathrooms." Where are we doing this in the third stage of hell?
It was a very nice ceremony he had. Of
course, it was a very nice ceremony, and those girls were so clean cut, and the way he handled the young girls was so clean cut, as opposed to Perv, President Perv, where the kids were in panic that they'd have to come close to him, having heard what he did to other kids. Of course, he was constantly trying to get them in the pool so they could touch his hair. As he admitted, he loved that. So I don't know. This is going to be quite a battle. So let's begin our panel discussion.
Can we come to?
We want to take a break before the panel discussion,
Sure.
So everybody can get ready, warm up, do their warm up pitches and their last minute preparation, and put like little things here.
Yes.
Or I do want an admission at the beginning. Are any of you connected electronically or in any other way to an outside source like the Democrats do during a debate to give you the answers? Because we're Republicans and we don't.
So is this going to be more debate style?
I don't care if you make a mistake, but
It's a
we're
free-flowing discussion.
We're trying to give an example of honesty to the American people.
Right.
So, do I have your word here, Ted?
You have my word, Mayor.
And Stephen?
You have my word.
Now, we tried to get Dr. Maria to participate, but she's very, very busy working on something. But maybe she'll sneak by at some point and correct. Actually, if she's nearby, she could listen, and she could be what do they call that? She could be the truth. She could be the
Fact checker.
Yeah, she could be the official fact checker.
The minister of truth.
Right. She'll be the fact checker. But, you know, she won't. I know Dr. Maria. She won't be a fact checker and say, this is the truth. She'll say, there's a contrary something here or a contrary something there. To resolve the truth in these issues is almost, you know, it's a fantasy of a dictatorship. So the first subject is to take a short break and make some money. And therefore we can continue, because if we don't get our money, we won't be able to continue. So you buy the products that we're about to ask you to buy. Most important thing is you make a contribution to T2T.org. If you don't do it, someday I'm going to find you.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order...
This is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm back with you with America's Mayor Live, and we are going to our panel discussion section, which we haven't really had since the election, where we had people talking about, way back, 7-8 months before, who would win. We made them go on the line for picking winners and losers, and I thought it was quite quite helpful. So now that we're into the administration, some of these issues are best elucidated by, conversation. First one that I want to bring up is something that came up, I think, pretty dramatically in the last day or two, in that it was found out that the government, maybe USAID, maybe not, maybe the administration was paying $8 million a year to Politico for what? And then USAID was paying off all kinds of left-wing media sources.
Right.
And now it turns out they're doing an investigation of how many media sources were paid off by the Biden administration. And the end result it'll be quite a bit more than just Politico. But let's start with, so what are they paying for?
Well, with regard to Politico, there's some debate. Now, obviously, the money coming into Politico could be viewed as some sort of a, remuneration of some kind.
Right.
But Politico.
Well, how else could it be interpreted? What do you mean?
What could be argued is that these NGOs, they do need the Politico Pro subscription to effectuate their mission. And Politico Pro is one of these services that provides like information on House staffers, Senate staffers, that type of thing. And that is how they could, color the argument.
Yeah,
but
that's probably how they do, right?
But it also kind of could be colored as a bribe to get favorable coverage. And I think both of them are fair.
So I don't think both of them are fair. I think there's only one of those two scenarios that add up to anything.
And which is that?
There's plenty. I mean, the latter. There's only one. There's only one reason. Look, you can get news services. There's plenty of free information out there, right, on Capitol Hill on what's happening in Washington. It's not like Politico has. Sure, they break exclusive stories, but that's all available online. Most of that's available for free online. They're clearly buying the subscription. They're trying to hide their influence under the guise of.
But that was $8 million. That was $8 million for 12 months.
That too. What $8 million in 12 months?
How many apps do you have for $8 million for 12 months?
Yeah.
You have an $8 million.
How many subscriptions is that getting? The federal government. And what do you mean you're getting subscription? Oh, USAID. So, it's very clear what's happening.
Why shouldn't people? I mean, I guess at the highest level. I mean, I remember when I was in the Justice Department. You would be given every day, and I thought it was a big waste, but every day you were given, your outer office was given, your chief of staff, your assistants, everybody was given the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, the Daily News. And then if you came from someplace, like you were from, if you were from Los Angeles, they'd give you the Los Angeles papers. I mean, there were more newspapers in the Justice Department for making fires than you could imagine. At the same time, they gave you a news briefing where all the important articles were pulled out that was compiled starting at 4:00 in the morning by the staff who did that. And that was about 40 pages or 50 pages. So you had all the important articles from these newspapers. And then if you were on the upper staff, you got the Attorney General's news briefing, which was even more complete. And then if you were on the upper staff, you got the presidential briefing as well. Right. Well, you couldn't read all these. And the newspapers in particular. I mean, you didn't have time. I mean, I love newspapers. So I would literally force myself to go through some of them. Right. Like I would always go through, as a comparison, at some point, the Wall Street Journal and the Times. And but it was almost as if I was wasting time.
Right.
So that they used to do, but that must have been small money. Politico, $8 million to Politico. What do you get? You can own Politico for $8 million.
Well, Politico offers high-end sort of services that are really tailored to lobbyists. So the
high-end.
So the private people who are paying on their own dime for Politico are like ExxonMobil, who need to like lobby the energy department.
And what do they get? Secret information about?
They get like the
illegal secret information.
They get like the deputy secretaries. They get like deputy secretaries, chief of staff's contact info or something like that.
And they probably pay them off for it.
Yeah, well, that's certainly what's happening. That's part of the whole game. If we don't like the game, that's just Washington. right?
Yeah, well, we don't like the game.
Yeah, certainly. I don't.
Yeah, we voted
And that's
for
why,
change.
and that's why today all of it was cut off.
There's no exactly.
Every single bit of it was cut off. And you start from the beginning. Do public employees in that business deserve to have some media paid for by the government? Yes. Should it be a minimum? Absolutely. Should it be on strict requirement? Yes. Should they be forced to share some? Yes.
You think they could get a better deal buying in bulk too? If there's 8 million worth, you'd get a discount or something. Maybe Doge will work on that.
I mean, I personally have no idea the value of these things, but I don't.
There's some value in industry newsletters.
Political, you'd be overpaying.
Yeah, Politico obviously has a partisan bent. There's
no kidding. How about the fact that when they were paying him this kind of money, they did the most extraordinary thing in American journalistic history. They turned down the biggest story maybe of this early century, which is the hard drive. And they bought the absolutely implausible story that it was Russian collusion without doing the slightest bit of investigation, nor developing a single fact that suggested it was Russian collusion.
Or did they investigate?
Because had they developed a single fact that it was Russian collusion, when they had to admit and apologize, they would at least point it out as a explanation. Well, at least we found this one fact that suggested it was Russian collusion. So that means they had no facts that it was Russian collusion. The idea that it was Russian collusion was on its face stupid. They asked no questions of the other side. They didn't ask to see it. They were told by a guy who probably should be in the brig for being a traitor, Brennan. They were told by Brennan and by Blinken and by Leon Panetta, and all of whom had to be seen as lying Democrats, that this was Russian collusion. So they said, okay, we ban it at the very end of a presidential campaign. Never done before by an American journal. A complete violation of any obligation they had as an American journalist. And why are they still allowed to exist? I mean, they should have been sued for $50 billion and destroyed.
You're referring to Politico here?
Yeah, Politico censored the hard drive, and as I recall it was the first one to do it.
Well, Mayor, they got $8 million for it.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
so
yeah,
I think that's a good.
So
they
made a profit violating the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What's so objectable about that?
Right.
Well, you're being a wise guy now, but I mean the reality is, apparently now, according to that new star of Washington, Carolyn Levitt, this goes on a lot. I mean, we're doing. I think next week we're going to find out a lot about a lot more of these, and maybe the 8.2 million is chump change.
Oh, I almost certainly think that's the case. Ted, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. That's just.
So does this explain? We always
this is just the beginning.
We always explain the media's extraordinarily weird behavior on behalf of Biden, covering up things they never would cover up on ideology. But could it be even more on corruption?
Of course.
Like getting paid for it?
Of course. It's likely.
Well, and you pay the people often that align with you ideologically. So it could be just almost it works out that way for them.
So then also you're tied into maintaining the conspiracy, because if the conspiracy gets revealed, you get revealed.
Right.
Well, that's why everyone's freaking out right now. And Politico's small potatoes when it comes, like if you think about all this, the USAID payments and I don't even know if there's enough investigative bandwidth out there to uncover everything that's in there, but that's what we're trying to get down to.
Okay. Or time, right? We only have 4 years now, 3 years and 11 months.
But you know what you have, what you have to do eventually after maybe 3 or 4 weeks of collecting all this, got to put them on a piece of paper and say priority.
Yeah.
What's most important? This is pretty priority. First Amendment's pretty much priority.
And who's getting prosecuted for this?
Yeah.
Not just exposing this and like, look how bad we have to hold folks accountable. Right there. This is beyond the 4 years here we're talking.
And you can't be can't be affected by what they're obviously trying to do, which is embarrassing us into not doing it.
Right. Well,
Why do you want to be as bad as we are?
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And they're threatening. Well, and it is worse. And
it's threatening, right?
And they've been threatening and smearing. Look what they're now doing to Musk. They're
What's
doing to Musk.
Good second object. Right. How does Musk, in how many months did it happen, go from being the golden boy who was saving space exploration, even to some extent, then this kind of like got into a little partisan, saving the First Amendment.
Right.
Now he is, a couple of articles say he's worse than Koch, worse than Trump. I don't know how he's worse than Trump or why Trump is worse, but, just comments like that. They love to do the Nazi thing on him too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a full-on smear campaign.
Trump was Hitler,
right?
But he's a Nazi,
and it works on
who
people.
Was he, Goering or?
And it works on people. Unfortunately, these lies in the smear campaign work on people. I've been traveling recently, and was recently back home, and even there, right? It's interesting. Right? You fly in for a few days, and but you'll hear certain folks say things. And that tell you what's being told on the media, right? And that it works. It trickles down. People are like, well, Elon Musk is, why'd you do the Hitler salute? Right? That's what they're asking. And they're being genuine about that. They genuinely think this guy is like Hitler because the media does.
No, that's a really important observation, Ted, because sitting in wherever we are, and even though we travel around, wherever you travel, you're in one bubble.
Yeah.
So let's say when we were at the convention, we were traveling. We were traveling. We weren't in New York or Florida, but we were in the convention bubble, the Democratic bubble, the Republican bubble. If we were to go to the Super Bowl, we haven't been invited. We'd be in the Super Bowl bubble. So it is important to get out there. I used to, as mayor, just do it all the time. I deliberately go have lunch in diners and.
Yeah, that's tough.
Well, do you remember we had a nice little visit to Chicago for the DNC, and that was a definite eye opener.
Actually, we did do that, and we went out a couple of times, and we got people to talk to us.
Ted and I were out in the crowds,
and then you went with Mike.
Yeah,
and Mike gets into fights.
Yeah,
oh, it's hilarious. Yeah. I love going.
He
Lindell's a
is
genius.
Fabulous.
His wife's beautiful and wonderful too. She went to the protest with us one day, and we prayed. It was like one of the funniest things. We were outside the Gaza.
Were the Democrats watching you pray?
Oh yes.
They didn't even know what you were doing anymore.
We circled up and prayed, and it was like,
confused.
okay, well now they know.
Yeah,
now they know.
Yeah, that gave it away. I'm like, I'm going in there all. I'm like, let's go incognito, guys. And God bless her, right? She wanted to pray and thank the Lord that she had us pray before, because it did get a little bit hairy. But yeah, as soon as we started praying, these folks. They stand out.
I remember those because we broadcast them. Those were great.
Oh, we got someone get knocked out on camera, and we're not condoning violence, but it was nuts. This guy just went up and boom, and the mayor's, the mayor does a boom.
Yep. And, that was nuts. Oh my goodness.
That person ended up being okay. We got to interview with him later. He ended up being okay. He was actually also kind of there to cover he says what he says. But anyway, but even there, you're in a bubble. Even at the DNC.
Yeah, we were at the Trump Hotel. We had a whole floor basically with all the other conservative influencers, I suppose. So I guess we kept ourselves in a little bit of a bubble.
Yeah, but we were probably wired.
But how do you get out of the bubble? For example, when you're mayor, you have to be cognizant that you're in a bubble, but it's hard to get out of that. Even if you are in a diner, right? You're in the diner as a mayor.
If you sit with somebody in an informal circumstance, even if you are a mayor and they're afraid to talk to you, after a while they forget.
Okay, so that's the key.
Well, if you're good at it, like Trump is a master at it. So Trump, you can sit with Trump, even if you're in the regal surroundings of the White House or the almost equally regal surroundings of Mar-a-Lago, which would tend to, like a diner is easier because people are they're in their habitat, not yours. To be honest, in the White House or Mar-a-Lago is a little harder because you're surrounded by.
Yeah.
But people, the minute they relate to you as another person and not as the mayor or the president, they start to be normal with you.
Mm.
It's not as hard as you think. People start off being very nervous of the president, but if the president puts them at ease that he's just a regular guy, a lot of them will open up, and a lot of them will open up more than they thought they would, because it's like exciting for them.
Right.
And it's like,
What's a lifetime experience?
It's like they had this restraint on them. The restraint's taken away, holding back all the stuff they wanted to say.
Yeah.
And they'll say it. I found it to be some of the most credible and useful information. Also, as opposed to a poll, if you ask them a question like, what's the problem that I can help you with the most? You'll find out what the really important problems are. More than a poll. It's
Like-
because the first thing will come to mind. I've always wanted to tell them that the electricity in my neighborhood is never delivered correctly.
It's the meat and potatoes issues. And that's why our power concentration should be a little more local. We don't need this bloated federal government, because the things that actually matter to the people aren't crazy NGO initiatives. My potholes are ruining the suspension on my car, and the inflation is making it so that I can't fix the darn thing. And like, those are the real problems that we should be addressing as stewards of the public's resources and regulations and rules.
Deconstructing this massive federal monstrosity that we've created is probably the single most important thing to restoring America to being not just the strongest country on earth, which we always have been and probably will be, but the most desirable country on earth, the most beautiful country on earth, with a way of making decisions that's unknown to other people. I mean, that whole idea of small central government, get it decided at the place closest to the people, still can work in a complicated society if you are careful and disciplined enough to make sure that certain things like education doesn't need a big bureaucracy. Education needs a good teacher.
The bureaucracy hurts education.
Right.
It actually makes the mission, it goes against the mission that they've been tasked with.
Now, it is true, we're defeating China in the tech war requires a gigantic central structure and then a lot of large competing structures.
Right.
That second part, the large competing structures, all they have is the central part.
Right.
We're the ones who have that. And if we can marshal that correctly, we can find the right balance there. And
and it's getting government out of the way of these AI things, right?
How about making it useful?
Right.
The government of Israel has a place in the desert, pretty isolated, but it's a great university. And it used to be, I have no reason to believe it isn't, it used to be the place where you could find the most advanced security for internet. And here's what they would do. They would give any worthy theory a $50,000 advance and a place to work. And they give you a certain period of time to develop yourself. And if you develop yourself, they would then fund you completely.
And this is the government that does this?
The government started you, and then the government got out. And then I used to go there twice a year to advise various funds, because my business was cybersecurity, on what are the most promising.
Well, and look at how much we had coming out of Israel after that, right? When it comes to a lot of
the American companies would buy up a company, at 20 million. The company eventually became a $500 million company.
Yeah.
Some of these companies went and made it on their own. Of course, some failed. Right. But the government was there constantly going into the schools, going into the laboratories and saying, if you can show us that you got something promising here, and you got here's 50 million to get started, 50,000 to get started, and here's a place to do it.
Now, do you like do you see that as the government's role here in this country?
No, not in America. We're too big.
And also
America,
that leads itself to corruption right there too. Yeah. Who's getting the money? Solyndra, for example.
In America, we already have that, and it has to be done on the local level, and the state level, and the university level. It's easier to do in Israel because look, you only have 10 million people.
It's smaller, and they have a shared identity.
Yeah, and they have a much better discipline against corruption than we do. I mean, of course, you have some corruption in Israel, but not systemic like we have. It's unfortunately, we don't want to admit to the fact that we are a very corrupt country, and money drives us. Israel can't be driven completely by money, because if it was, they might not survive. They have to be driven by protecting themselves.
Yeah, and by a shared identity,
Yeah.
a shared need to survive.
And
It's
it makes
purely
you
about
very
survival.
relevant. The minute your life is on the line every day, you're very relevant. You don't have time to bullshit.
Mhm.
So I have a last topic. And that is, Trump did a great thing with allowing these women to be protected against bully men coming in and destroying their sports. But what's going to happen now with the Olympics?
That's anybody's guess. I think that as an international body, they're going to be able to compete, or they're going to, I don't know. But the more complicated thing too is how are we going to scrutinize this? How is it going to be presented to the world? I don't know. It's anybody's guess, honestly. What are we going to do? What do you think?
What do you think, Ted? And this is how do you, if you had a rule, how do you enforce it?
I can't. I mean, look, there's two genders. I think. Look, either you add a you either add a category for transgenders.
Extraordinary statement.
Yeah. You add a category.
By Theodore Goodman.
Yeah.
Well, we call it
You add a
breaking
category,
news.
or you don't
There
get
are
to
two
compete.
genders.
Yeah.
Ted, that's a very controversial position. I don't know if we're going to want to keep going with that. No, but here's the thing, though, is the Olympic Committee, that is beyond ultra woke, right? And beyond ultra corrupt. I think we've seen that.
Their
right?
history is outrageous.
And so we're dealing with that body right now. We don't, President Trump is not the president of the IOC, and I don't think he would ever even get close to being so.
I think in his earlier life, pre-politics, he was offered that. I think. I'll have to check that.
Well, that makes sense before everyone started hitting him in the media.
When everybody loved him.
Because he knows how to put together a really good show, right?
Yeah, everybody used to love him.
Yeah, and organize and get projects
He used
done
to
like
love
he
me
did,
too.
like he did with the ice rink, right? It's like he knows how to put a project together and make it happen and execute. He's the consummate executive. But when we're dealing with these actors on the world stage, like the IOC, I'm looping them in right with the EU people and the WHO people and the WEF people. They're just a different monster.
Should we make it illegal to use initials like
Like
WHO and HIC
USA?
and CPP and FY2 and 2?
Oh, we got the USA. We like the
but
USA.
when I read an article, sometimes this happened to you. You get down toward the end of the article and you see an initial like FPB.
FW Elliott.
FPB. And you say to yourself, oh God, what did that stand for? And then you got to go way back in the article to find when they first said it. Now, I found an article in the Wall Street Journal the other day with a guy's last name.
Yes. I've had that happen.
And I couldn't find I spent way too much time trying to find the first name.
Yes.
They never put his first name.
Yeah. Sometimes they're the ones that make that mistake. It's funny.
And
You bring that up.
rarely does it happen. Sometimes I have to take a long time because it's hidden somewhere. But you see the guy's last name and you want to get his first name so you can look him up online. And you go back, and in this particular case, it wasn't there. I had somebody even check it for me. Can you find it? No, they messed up, because they do occasionally mess up. But with these abbreviations, like when a long article, you start to, wait a second. And it seems like all these agencies with these abbreviations is there something between abbreviations and getting corrupt? I mean, the FBI was great for years, but look what happened. Maybe they should have always been the federal.
I think we're associating it because the DC world, they're all about the acronyms, right? And I think that it's just almost our instinct to think of any acronymed org as
I'm being silly.
As a corruptor. No, I think I kind of get it though. I get that.
Can we just say that we're going to devote the next couple of weeks to defending Elon Musk, because he's going, and I'm going to tell you why. I feel a certain affinity to him. I believe he's going through, for different reasons, the same thing I went through. There was a period of time when I think they felt they did everything they could to Trump. Not that they wanted to take it back, nor would they look for a new opportunity to hit him. But they pretty much, it was getting counterproductive. The more they hit him, so they had to find somebody else to hit. and they went after me, Bannon, Navarro, a couple of high-level people to try to take us, from what we were to monsters.
Well, and countless other activists at the local
Right.
level, like our electors got
They always
attacked.
mean like a big one. And I don't want to be self-congratulatory, but I was kind of the biggest one. And right now, Musk is the biggest one.
You're right.
So if you can't take down Trump, take down Musk. It'll help take down Trump. Meanwhile, they often pick on a guy that was a hero before. Like all of a sudden, Trump went from, media darling of New York to the second coming of Adolf Hitler.
That's right.
And now Musk, they're using the same Hitler thing.
That's right.
Now they used the Hitler thing on me when I was mayor. I don't know exactly the one they used on me now. What was I? A corrupt lawyer?
Yeah, look, I mean, they probably tried
after all these years of being scrupulously honest lawyer, having prosecuted more criminals
right,
than anyone, having the best
Including Nazis.
prosecutorial record in the 20th century,
including literal Nazis.
having been the only mayor to ever really reduce crime, and then having reduced it more than any city in the country, or welfare, having led the country through September 11, all of a sudden, Satan comes to visit me, and I become an operative.
Russian. That's what you were, a Russian
of
operative.
the system I fought all my life, communism.
Yeah, somehow a Russian operative, but also with some somehow Nazi related, right? Although they probably know. I mean,
they didn't do the Nazi.
They didn't on you. It's tough to do that.
At the height of that Russian shit, with all the spies
Yeah,
who
Russia,
lied,
that's the
including
thing. Russia.
Leon Panetta, the one that I resent the most. I was accused. There were times in which I would get people calling me a Russian, in public, but this would be back in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had a fully
Russian spy.
They had a fully funded political operation shouting that from the rooftops everywhere. The 51 spies who lied. Thank God they've been, banned from all federal buildings now?
I think there's going to be more done to them, by the way.
Which rightfully
their
so.
Their security clearance was taken away. They've been banned from federal buildings. They've been banned for any contact with the federal government. And I can't imagine they're not under investigation.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think you have to do that in order to make sure this doesn't happen again. Because I don't think the Democrats have learned their lesson. When you look at them, what we showed earlier in the show, they were acting like animals in the street. The same old animals they've always been. The same animals that created the riots of 2020. Fight, war.
Familiar playbook.
Yeah.
That's right, Mayor. And again, going back to USAID, I just want to say it again. At least $20 million? I'll get that number to the OCCRP, this organization of they really are activists under the guise of journalists. And they had a whole tab on you and others. And that information was then used by the impeachment, those that worked to impeach Trump in his first impeachment and the fake Russiagate story. They relied heavily on the material from this organization, the OCCRP, which
the report they published today, and I'm waiting for the full number of reports to refute them. I can tell you, it's completely fictitious. I've seen reports done about this by the people trying to claim that I was a Russian spy and he was a Russian spy, in which they take certain facts and they change them. This they make up. I'll give you one example. Because we've covered it so often, how I initially was apprised of Biden's corruption.
Right.
It was not two Ukrainian prosecutors who came to me and gave it to me.
Right.
That is completely, absolutely, I think demonstrably false, because the people who gave it to me have now testified. And we have records of it, videos of it.
Right.
They write it like as if it's the truth.
Right.
It's just like a fiction. They might have said that the two people that came to me had bad motives, they're so irresponsible and lazy. You could lie, I guess, more effectively than they do. They don't.
Right.
Because they're so spoiled.
And I want to do an explainer video on this, Mayor, so that we can lay this out for people. I mean, there's a lot of acronyms involved, these government agencies, and under the guise of reporting. So I really want to lay this out. So maybe that's another project for the weekend.
But I think it's actually worth. There's going to be more that comes out on this, and I have no doubt it's going to be more about me and more about others too. Yeah. Like when I first found out that they took my iCloud account for 3 years, I didn't realize that they did that with 4 or 5 other people.
Right. So
what that meant was when I got the hard drive, and my lawyer Bob Costello and I were communicating about it. In the effort to figure out how we could put it out, we communicated with Steve Bannon. Well, he was covered too.
Right.
And I think when they saw that, because Bob and I were pretty careful about the way we communicated, and they had never picked up anything before. But I think it was the communication with Steve where, remember, they knew that the hard drive existed at that point for 10 months. They knew it was valid and they knew it was dynamite. So they were watching for, is anybody going to get their hands on this? They also knew that John Mac Isaacs was getting very restless and very upset with their corruption. So and they must have been keeping an eye on him, and they must have known that he wrote to a lot of people to help him. And a lot of people meant 12. It's not hard to cover. Well, I was the only one who was willing to do it. And some of the others are great friends of President Trump.
But look what you're signing up for.
How about fair weather friends? But so immediately we must have been in a circle of 12 people who could possibly do this when he sent out the letters. They probably struck out 5 or 6, being as shrewd as I am, knowing they didn't have the balls to do it. And someday I'll tell you who they are. They're all famous. And they probably got it down to 3 or 4 people that might do it. And then when they saw the communication of Bannon, it's Giuliani. And that's when they went to their conspirators, the social media people, and said, you're going to get a lot of false news about Hunter Biden, but it's going to be Russian sourced. Now,
yeah, even more acute than that, they said that the laptop is Russian disinformation,
yeah, which they knew was absolutely untrue. They knew
they're traitors.
There are reports in their files 6 months earlier that it was verified as Hunter Biden's laptop.
That's why they couch it, right?
Now those guys, you're talking about who should go to jail in the FBI? The people who did that should go to jail in the FBI.
And look, I think someone like Kash Patel is willing to hold people accountable, and he's been willing to talk about some of these actions, and that's why Democrats are fighting tooth and nail. And even tonight, right, they're trying to come up with anything they can on Kash. And I'm not sure. It sounds like they're going to have another hearing for him.
I think
we can confirm.
I think Republicans, although they are divided on certain things, I think they all understand this. I think Kash gets a unanimous Republican vote. I really doubt it. I even think McConnell would have a hard time voting against him unless he thinks that Kash is going to investigate how he got the $5 million from the Red Chinese.
Exactly. McConnell's got a lot of baggage in his closet, right? Who knows what's going to come out there? Yeah, and how coherent is he these days? Is he able to function at his, at a level that might...
Doesn't look that way.
That's what I'm thinking too. So he might be vulnerable to influence. I mean, and plus he's got a lot of connections over there in China.
But Kash Patel's nomination has been delayed for a week. Now
that's a lot over nothing.
But what Democrats are hopeful for is
they
that it'll give them
nothing.
Well, they're hopeful that they can get something to stick with all the smear campaign over the course of the next week.
Ted,
that's why they're doing this.
You and Stephen understand Congress better than I do, how they operate.
Well, I don't know about that, but
thank
you for saying that, Mayor.
I'm saying the rules. I don't know the rules.
Oh.
How do they get to do this when we're the majority of the Senate? I always thought the majority sort of like dictated.
Yeah.
And can't the majority leader say, I'm sorry, the committee, first of all, the committee should say, we're going to vote tomorrow. And then it's given to the majority leader, and then he puts it on the floor for a vote.
I'll take it even one more.
Why does he have to listen to them?
We'll take it even further and just say, hey, go to recess and let's just recess appoint some of these people.
Well, calling for a 1-week holdover is allowed under the Judiciary Committee rules, and both parties have.
The Senate is a
exercised this-
deliberative body,
Well,
remember.
and I guess both parties have exercised it regularly when in the minority, and so Chuck Grassley is kind of respecting that. This isn't at this time expected to change the final vote. He's expected to get out of the committee. However, there's only one reason to do this. Democrats are hopeful that, in fact, within a week, they can change.
They're really
right,
trying
as
to
of now.
find something that they can, call him Hitler about, right?
And we're not even gonna. We're not even going.
They're trying to find somebody like they found for Kavanaugh.
Yep.
Or maybe they can get another Duke lacrosse team person. To
there's
come
been a
up
casting call. They put out a casting call for women.
I mean, that worked for 2 years. That lie.
So I'm with you, Mayor. If there were a way, and we'll have to look into the rules. I don't think we should honor that. Like what seems to be something that precedent set, where the minority party is allowed to request and get this week holdover, because this there's no way this is in good faith, right? This holdover for a week is only so these Democrats can come up with something, gives them more time for something to hopefully stick. And to me, that's not a good faith.
Gives them time to plan their own defenses in some cases, right?
Yeah, that too.
Like, I'm about to get investigated by this guy. Let's put it off a little bit.
Well, that's a good point.
I need to interview lawyers here.
That's a good point. It gives, it's another week that Cash is pushed back from doing his job. That's a very good point.
In a way, given human nature, they're taking a big risk, because they could create what I call Justice Thomas. Justice Thomas, I do not think, well, I shouldn't say this. I think some of his very, very strong, loyal conservatism comes about because they pushed him there.
Yeah.
And he said, you want me? You don't want me? Well, you
so viciously too.
And you know how Democrats treat black Republicans. Let's just be honest.
And he didn't let us down once. And Alito has not let us down once. And I just love the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we might have another Supreme Court justice here pretty soon. We got some unhealthy.
Not another Comey Barrett. Okay, please.
Oh, yeah. Catholic,
please.
Amy.
And then the other three, I like Gorsuch. Gorsuch is good enough.
There might be more Catholics on the Supreme Court now than ever before.
There is. Kavanaugh, okay. Roberts, tricky.
Roberts,
I have a hard time with him.
And the other one, I don't know. I think there are 4 liberals on the court, not 3.
Yeah,
the way she votes, and she hasn't been on long enough. There also seems to be not a great deal of intellectual consistency.
Oh, we missed.
I don't know what I can't tell you yet what's going. I can tell you what's going on with Roberts.
Was that too close to Washington? Too long?
Yeah. And also, you want to give it the best interpretation possible. Concerned about the integrity of the Supreme Court, and also the attempts to destroy it, and therefore very nervous if he's going to create an opinion that might lead to a 15-person Supreme Court.
Yeah, which was being threatened.
So
by the Biden
for that, you have to give him some credit. But then you got to balance that against, in an individual case, do you do injustice as a result of that? I don't know.
Well, I think with all of these unprecedented issues that we've come across, I think a lot of constitutional law textbooks are going to have some updates to them as we keep going forward.
We don't have much time left unless we want to have people here until the Super Bowl. But so what? Give me your analysis, the two of you. And I guess Stephen and I would have to concede that the football expert on this panel is Ted, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm not the football expert, but the NFL operates, they're a political body too sometimes.
But you, like me, tend to think that they cheat for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I do. Well, I think they often tend to cheat for whoever's going to make the most money for the NFL.
I can get on board with that. Or it probably changes. I don't think it's one team.
You think the message goes down from, who is it, Goodell? Roger Goodell?
The commissioner is Roger Goodell.
I don't know. There's probably like a little body.
His father was a rhino senator.
That's right.
Yeah. So Roger and his father wasn't the kind of sissy he is. Roger Goodell is actually about the only guy left in American business that still wants to be woke.
Right.
So he may be like legitimately woke. Like that's who he really is.
Well, you're not
a wokey pokey.
You're not going to like this, Mayor.
What?
Apparently, they're playing a second national anthem.
That's right.
What's the second national anthem?
Oh my gosh.
Let me make sure.
No,
I've heard it referred to as
Please.
the Black National Anthem.
no, you don't play a second. Well, then I believe you should play the Israeli national anthem and the Italian national anthem and the Irish national anthem. We're all part of America too. What about the national anthem of the Dominican Republic and the Hispanics that are in this country?
Yeah.
Why can't they have their national? We'll have no Super Bowl. We'll just play national anthems.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a whole day beforehand.
There should be a national anthem of every single group that makes up America. It would be only 220, and then we could go ahead with the Super Bowl at 4 o'clock in the morning.
How about this?
Why, actually, Taylor Swift should be forced to sing every single one of them. Maybe that way they'll put her in the hospital and we won't have to watch her at the Super Bowl.
Well, how about this? So they're playing what they're referring to as the Black National Anthem. It's "Lift Every Voice and Sing." It's a hymn originally written as a poem by James Weldon Johnson in the late 1800s. So how about a compromise where, if they want to have this performance, that's fine, but I don't appreciate them referring to it as a second national anthem, Black National Anthem.
You shouldn't play it at all. It's like putting up another flag. We play the national anthem to honor the United States of America. Black people are a very big part of the United States of America, full and equal citizens. They're no worse, they're no better than anybody else. And until we do that, we're a racist country, and we create false expectations. There are all kinds of sicknesses involved in that. So for that reason, I might not watch it.
See, and I knew that might have been your reaction, but I felt like you had to know.
What the hell is wrong with them?
I feel like most people are just going to be getting beer and snacks during both of them anyway, but we'll see.
Two national anthems?
So if they want to, I guess this is a song.
Why would they pick just black people? I mean, they're the only Americans.
Divide and conquer. This is the Democrat Party MO.
Doesn't that create in of itself division?
That's division. A separate, they separate but equal. They like to claim that's a Republican thing, right? Where's the national anthem for Asian
people
Americans?
May be the most discriminated against. Jewish. Well, you want to go by statistics? The most discriminated against people in 2024 were Jews. 4-1, the hate crimes reported nationally were anti-Semitic. The amount of hate crimes against blacks was down to one of the lowest ever. And the amount of hate crimes against Islamics down to about the most ever. And this was a year of anti-Semitism.
Oh yeah. Well, we don't forget those. We don't forget the Gaza encampments, right?
Those are the people that are right now being treated in the most un-American way, not the blacks.
Yeah. And the crazy people on the tip of the universities or on the top of the universities were saying, "Oh, it's not safe for you to go to class, so just don't go to class because you're Jewish."
The most discriminated against in education are the Asians.
Yes, and Asians, if you're gonna paint it with a broad brush,
who originally were being attributed to white supremacy until we found out that 90% of Asians are beaten up by blacks.
Yeah, well, in Canada, they have a distinction. There's a particular category called capable minority. I think it's called capable minority, where they don't get all the benefits that minorities get because they're a capable minority. So like the Indians, the Chinese, they don't get any preference because they're a capable minority. How demeaning is that?
But
to the black and the other minorities out there, like, you're a group that's definitely not capable, right?
That's a good point. But the mayor just brought that up. Not that long ago, there was I guess they claim a rise in violence against Asian Americans, Asian hate, stop Asian hate. When in reality, and that's how they spun it, right? As attacks against Asian Americans. When in reality, it was being caused by all predominantly black.
They began the Asian hate thing big time because they thought they were going to do more white supremacy.
Right.
And when they found out that
bingo,
just about don't harm Asians at all, and it's just occasional that the systemic attack on Asians comes from blacks, as it does on Jews.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the idea of white supremacy against Jews is minor compared to black attacks on Jews.
Right.
So, I mean, all this tells you is creating these special preferences has taken something that we had pretty much solved and made it considerably worse, because it makes too many black people feel like they're victims when they're not. Too many white people reject the notion that they're villains. and feel that the system is completely unfair. And what does it do? Mainly, it does exactly what communists want to do. Creates division in society. And if you'd like to know who gave this to you, there was an Italian philosopher named Gramsci who had the brilliant observation that division based on wealth wasn't working in America, and the way they could get us is on race because we're so guilty about it. And it is a communist doctrine. Easily, if you want to really pick it up real quick, just go read about the history of the Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was created by 3 women. The 3 women are trained, Chinese-trained Marxist. They began creating a lesbian should rule the world organization. And when the riots began, they decided to put up a flag saying Black Lives Matter. And they collected a lot of money under the Black Lives Matter banner, which they were going to use for the lesbian cause. But then, the George Floyd thing happened. But then, of course, most of the money went to their mansions.
Yes, beautiful.
Because they're true communists. That's what communists do. The communist leadership takes all the money.
Well, they needed it to support their fight for the underprivileged. They needed the mansion.
Right. Right.
So, it's
and they had to have underprivileged, so that's why they had to be so privileged.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, they got to know their enemy. They got to know their enemy.
Now, having said that the Kansas City Chiefs cheat, who do we pick and why? And then we'll have to close out. Who do we pick? Who wants to go
Okay,
first?
I'll go first. I'm taking
the big expert's going to go
Oh,
first.
no, okay, no, I'm not.
And
Let's have
really
Steven go.
embarrass us.
Let's have Steven go first, actually.
No, let's have you go first since you're a bully.
No, look, it's a tough one. I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm gonna go with the coaching here, and obviously the talent they match up. The Kansas City Chiefs match up well with the Eagles, unlike last week. I think it was the Commanders 2 weeks ago. I'm taking the Chiefs. They're going for the first three-peat. They match up well, and I think they can just get it done. I mean, they can move the ball down the field.
That was an objection from
seconds.
the peanut gallery.
It's not all right. So I'm going by what I think will happen here.
Okay, so you're with the Chiefs. Now I want to correct you, and I am shocked that you didn't know this, and that you conceded that this is the first three-peat.
This will be the first if they win. This
Come on,
will
work on that brain there.
Mayor. This is the first
This is brain exercise before a weekend in which you're entitled to let it.
So you're gonna was it the Packers? You're gonna argue that there was a three-peat in the Super Bowl era.
When football,
there's never been a 3 in a row.
Super Bowl era is bullshit.
Okay.
When football was tough, when football was better, when football players didn't take 2 weeks off for a hangnail, when football players didn't have equipment on like they're in a movie for outer space, when football players hit you hard and quarterbacks didn't pretend they were injured to get calls. When football was really football, the Green Bay Packers won 3 championships in a row under much tougher circumstances than all these sissies do now. And if Vince Lombardi had been required to be at a game in which something other than the American national anthem was being played, he would have taken his team, walked off the field, and found a high school team to scrimmage with. Meanwhile, so would Wellington Mara, who ran the Giants. So would Mr. Hallis, who ran the Chicago. These men were American patriots, and football, damn it, is an American game. And there's no other national anthem that should be played but the American national anthem. And if you're going to play the black national anthem, since they are one of many loyal Americans, then it should be played for all loyal Americans. And the game should start on Saturday. And Taylor Swift should be required to sing every national anthem, all 210 of them. And then you'll find out what a lousy singer she really is. This is ridiculous. And it only goes to the fact that the National Football League has literally one of the silliest men in America running it. The man is a silly man.
It's funny to see.
Almost destroyed it over kneeling for the national anthem.
That's right.
Almost destroyed it. And how much money did he give to that bum who couldn't really even play quarterback?
And it makes me think, Mayor, one of the things they paint in the end zone, a lot of these stadiums, especially during this woke era.
They have it in Philadelphia.
End racism is what it says.
That better be gone.
Well, first of all, they want to end racism. They're doing the exact opposite
Yeah,
by
get rid of
having a black national anthem.
Yeah, get rid of
That's
them.
the exact opposite
Actually,
of
that's a good
ending
idea.
racism. They're pointing out racism.
Presidents should say, president shouldn't go. I don't think. If they're going to do 2 national anthems, he's not going to an American event.
I agree. So if they want to sing,
I'm getting
this song,
angrier and angrier. So I think it's
I know.
time for me to make my pick, which maybe is an angry pick. Who knows? But I'll let Stephen go first.
Well, I'm going to go with who cheats, right? The Kansas City Chiefs. And that's going to, I have some colleagues from the FCC that are big Chiefs fans from Kansas. And
Are they cheating for them?
No, these guys are not
getting them signals and stuff. I mean, I think they would do anything.
But also the thing is Philly's also got a big base, and just based on, like, I'm not the football guy, right? But
obviously, because you just selected the baseball team from.
No, Philadelphia, the Eagles. So, like,
to be fair, he did mean the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I'm going to say that Philadelphia is not known as being like this, like, non-corrupt city, right? So I think that they got some cheating in their bones, right?
Oh, gee.
So we'll see.
I think it's a capital for cheating.
Yeah. So I mean,
Philadelphia,
maybe they got it in them
but
too.
they waste all their time cheating on elections. I don't think they cheat on football.
Who's going to make more money from jersey sales and that kind of stuff?
Mahomes and Kelsey, and they'll probably have
Travis Kelsey's probably number one.
They'll probably have a Kelsey Taylor Swift.
Yep, and then with the Taylor Swift thing,
front.
I think that it's probably gonna be the Chiefs then, right? Because this whole Taylor Swift thing and Kelsey.
So I'm gonna give. I can't comment on the corruption part because I don't know. I just have a suspicion. But I will say that if you want the better football team, it's the Eagles. The Eagles, first of all, have the thing that very often wins Super Bowls when it comes down to it. A little bit of an exception for the Chiefs because they're so experienced. But I saw the Giants do this to the Patriots when they were very experienced. The Giants beat the Patriots twice because they had a better defense. There was no question they were facing, if not the best offense ever, the most prolific offense ever, the most consistent offense ever. Twice they beat them because they intimidated them on defense. They sacked Brady on the first or second play of both Super Bowls. It stayed in his head for the entire game. Every time Brady went back to pass, the first thing he was doing is looking how close the Giant linemen were to him. Brady did not have the same ability, of course, that Mahomes has to escape, which would have made it a different game, a slightly different game. Then in the second Super Bowl, they sacked Brady on the second play of the game, picked up a 2-0 lead. And on the penultimate play of the game, the second to last, when they needed a Hail Mary pass, he was knocked for a 12-yard loss on the second to last play, which means that the Hail Mary pass had to be thrown even 12 yards further from the end zone, a pass that was almost caught by Gronkowski. So defense won the game. And they have a much better defense. Not even a comparison. They have a much bigger line. Now, I don't know what that's going to mean. This would mean a lot more if Kansas City relied a lot on its running game. If Kansas City had a big offensive line, it could really hurt Saquon and his other runners that are good. But I don't know if that's going to play in the game very much. But they will put a lot of pressure on Mahomes, but he knows how to avoid it. I think the big difference in the game, which is very unfortunate for me because I'm angry about it, but is going to be Saquon Barkley. There are two generational players on the field. One of them is Mahomes. The other one is Saquon. And they're going to determine the game. Saquon is going to determine the game because they cover him too much, or he's going to determine the game because they don't cover him too much, and he'll score 4 touchdowns like he did in the last one. So you put 2 men on Saquon, you just lost the game. You put 1 man on Saquon, you might win. But there can't be a play in that game on offense for Philadelphia and on defense for Kansas City when Saquon is in the game that you don't watch him. Because if you miss him, one guy misses him, it's 6 points. So I say Philadelphia. I think the jig is up for Kansas City. It always is for somebody at some point, and this will be it. And I think I'm saying it because this is a football legitimate interpretation. I may be saying it because I want to see Taylor Swift, who I think did unnecessary damage to our country in the way she opposed Donald Trump. I want to see her cry because they made too much of her, and they should stop paying attention to her. She's got nothing to do with football. If you like Taylor Swift, great. I've got nothing against you. I don't know that I have a tremendous amount of respect for your knowledge of the human voice or music, but I have nothing against you. You can love her for that. If you follow her political views, you're a numbskull. So we're going to have a great week next week after the Super Bowl is over. We'll have plenty to talk about. We got a couple of nominations hanging in the balance. We still haven't gotten the others past the floor. We're going to see how we're going to have to see how the whole situation in Israel plays out in Gaza, right? And we haven't heard much about Ukraine, have we? Well, I didn't have time, but I had quite a story on the back channel the back channel work being done in Ukraine, which sounds to me like as soon as they get Israel to a stopping point of some kind, we're going to be surprised that there might be a solution in Ukraine. But that's what we'll talk to you about on Monday, because we'll get a little more on that. And I want to remind you, based on the conversation and the really, really great one that we had with Ali Reza yesterday, that you should replay that. And we may pull it out as a special so that you can listen to it, because next week we're going to spend some time on driving home the fact that peace in the Middle East is a fantasy so long as the reign of terror is in Iran, because they will do everything they can to undermine it. So you got to get them out of the way. However you do it, replace them with a government that's ready to serve. And then I predict that you're going to get peace in the Middle East. You could get it in a year, but they got to be out of the way. If they are in the way, not a year, not 2 years, you may even do a peace and they'll undermine it. So please pray for the people of Iran. They deserve freedom. Pray for the people who are still at war, Israel and Ukraine. And the prayer this weekend in the United States all has to be Thanksgiving for your having delivered us, because it was you, your guidance, that it got us to make the right decision. God bless America.
Why don't we liberate these United States? We're the ones who...
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans.
But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze